Hello, Gertrude. Hello, all you beautiful beings. My name is Bara, and I am 34. I am based in the US in California. I think my story starts, though, in Indonesia, where my family moved when I was 2 years old from the US. They're all American. And I was at a really, really small international school. We stayed there for 10 years until I was 12, and it was absolutely incredible. I had an amazing experience. But one of the things that I think got me from it was my community, this expat community I lived in, was very, very small. We had about 26 kids in our whole school from pre K to eighth grade. So, because of that, it was just really, really important that you fit in. If one kid didn't like you, that might meant that you'd have no friends, and that's just not a way that human beings survive very well. Um, so fitting in became really important to me. And when we moved to the US when I was 12, I absolutely didn't. I felt very much like I was the weird kid from Indonesia at my whole middle school. My class was suddenly larger than my entire school had been, and I just really didn't quite fit in. I think I tried different strategies, including drawing attention to the different parts of myself, including masking parts of myself. And eventually, I think where I landed was just kind of keeping a bit of a distance between me and others. Because if I did that, then I couldn't be rejected by them. They didn't even know who I was. So, how could they reject me? I carried that over, I think, subconsciously this whole time into college. I was enjoying life. I was having a pretty good time doing lots of fun things. I had large groups of friends, but I just didn't feel like they actually cared whether or not I was part of that group, um, which I was kind of okay with. I didn't really see another way. And I just thought that's how my existence would be. And it was all fine. Um, Went off with an engineering job after college, moved around the country a bit. And this really started hitting me when I kind of stumbled upon a spiritual journey. That journey and COVID itself accelerated that journey, eventually led me to just getting really, really deep with myself and who I was and the things that were holding me back, led me into energy work and a lot of identity work. And eventually that led to me realizing that helping others experience that sense of belonging is just about the most important thing that I think I can do. I think I've always subconsciously done that. But I was blessed with an opportunity to leave my job in a supported way. And I took that opportunity, and now I work full time to help people develop that sense of belonging, that sense of connection, those relationships that they actually want to be part of, as my full time business. And here I am.
It sounds like you have been on quite a journey. What was it about COVID that helped accelerate and bring you to where you are now?
Well, I think one thing that really helped with COVID was I moved right at the beginning of when the US was acknowledging it. I moved on March 14th from Houston to Southern California, where I didn't know any people in my new office. I moved for work. Um, my first day in the office, they sent everyone to work from home. I was staying in an Airbnb at the time. I hadn't lined up my own place. So I decided and had the privilege of being able to move just 2 hours away in with my parents. So I lived with my parents for 3 months in my mid 30s. And that accelerated a lot of it, I think, because I started discovering I guess two things are really happening. One is I was getting a lot deeper in my mindfulness journey and meditation because I had all this extra free time, and that's something that I'd been interested in for a couple years. And there were a lot of virtual events, so I was able to interact with people in that space, even though we weren't physically together. And it was a lot easier to do that because I wasn't saying yes to all this stuff I used to say yes to. I was a very social person, so I had a really busy schedule, and that took away from me doing a lot of the personal development work, I think. So there was that. I was getting deeper in tune with who I am and with what was going on physically in my body, which would give me a lot of indications sometimes about what was right for me and what wasn't once I started to become aware of that. And then living with my parents, or my dad in particular, was definitely triggering for me. Um, I think with a lot of us, I had a great relationship with my parents. I think as far as it goes with most people, they're very loving, caring people. I was very fortunate with the family that I was given. But parents tend to trigger us and bring up a lot of difficult emotions. My dad definitely does that for me. So I'd experience every day when I kind of had the bottom floor of the house almost to myself, my own private area, which was really nice. When I'd walk upstairs to go to dinner, I just feel my body tense up. I'd feel myself braced and ready for this fight that I knew was going to happen. So of course it happens because I was prepared for it. And I started diving in deeper to see what was going on there and why I was having this reaction with him. And I was doing that through the meditative work. So in that process, I found that I thought I came to this deep insight that it was a blame that I had for my dad. That was the emotion going on. Then when I got even deeper, it turns out that it was actually this fear that I'd never find a place in the world that I belonged. Um, which almost seems silly because obviously, now I belong everywhere. We all do belong in most places. But there was this deep rooted fear that was keeping me from connecting with him, from connecting with other people. And I just got to get deeper and deeper through the meditation process. And eventually it started bringing the right people into my life to support me in my healing journey.
They say that in times of crisis, like with the COVID pandemic, we either learn, we are stretched. There's always an underlying reason to everything. I was actually reading a blog post that talked about how the Chinese write the word for crisis with two symbols. One stands for dangerous, the other stands for opportunity. So during this dangerous crisis, a lot of people have found themselves, they have gotten to understand who they truly are. They have been forced to face their demons, so to speak. A lot of relationships have broken down during this time. You seem to have strengthened your resolve in terms of who you are as a person in the world. And it's probably the biggest blessing that could have happened to you, right? So, based on what you've learned up till this point, if I could take you back to post COVID and you could have a conversation with that younger woman who was struggling, who didn't feel she belonged, who felt lost, what three nuggets of wisdom would you give her based on what you've learned so far?
Wow. I love this question. I think so. I think we're talking about before COVID and before I had all this. I think I would say that I think first I'd tell her that that's what was going on. Hey, you're pushing people away because you are afraid to get close to them. I think that just knowing that, if she'd accept it, would have a huge impact of me seeing that I was creating this world for myself. It wasn't happening to me. Um, I would tell her that she does matter and she belongs, and that some people need her to be exactly who she is, even though it might not look like who she thinks that she's been told she's supposed to be. Um, and I'd say, I guess, similar note, but I think the third nugget would be they don't know how you're supposed to be. They've never seen anyone like you before. So don't let them tell you or try to guide you too much, because they don't have all the answers and you can only find those within yourself.
That is awesome. Now, your father was your trigger, you said. We have people in our lives who do trigger us. Have you figured out why you have this relationship with him?
Well, as he always likes to remind me, and I try to argue, we are very similar. In some ways, I would like to think I'm much better in many ways. But I think that the people that trigger us are often mirrors for us. So when we get triggered by someone, such as I did with my dad, it's great to ask the question of, okay, what am I seeing here about myself that I don't like? And what I'm going to say right off the bat right now of me answering this question to myself for the first time is there's some stubbornness there. Um, it's funny because I would have said I'm not stubborn, but now when I look back on it, that's, I think, what that wall was and that distance that I'd put between me and other people. It was this stubbornness of, okay, you might not see all of me. Well, then you're not going to get to see any of me. So I think that might be one of the big things for me.
I love that. And it is a journey of discovery, right? And just taking that responsibility that whatever is happening in your life, you are creating it. Nobody else is doing this for you. So you then transitioned from your engineering job, which is so different from what you're doing now. Tell us a little bit about where you are now.
Well, where I am now is, and I left out the gap there. There was a long period of me thinking I was finding my new career, but it turns out I was on this whole spiritual journey. So I was working with different energy healers and things to help me. I was intuitively guided to train under them, which I didn't really expect, especially because I didn't even think I was in touch with my intuition when the whole journey started. Um, but where I am now, after it's about, let's see, almost a year and a half since I left that job. And I've started up my own company. It's called Bara, and I am an intuitive life coach and an energy healer. So I work with people, and I'm in the very early stages of building my business, which has been very interesting and taught me a lot about myself and the world. Um, but I work with people largely one on one to help them discover who they really are, connect with themselves and that person that's actually deep down instead of that engineer that they've been pretending to be, and to build their better relationships with other people, to overcome their fear of rejection, social anxiety, and those kind of things. And so that's a one big part. But then what I really love doing as well is talking about it, speaking about it, writing about it too, because I think there's so much power in these stories. And I love telling my own stories, and I can't wait until I have more client stories to tell too, with their permission, of course, because I think we can learn so much from watching other people's journeys. I love what you are doing here so much for that reason. We just need to see one person who inspires us and makes us think, oh, I never thought of things that way, or oh, that could be me too, or maybe I'm going through that, to change our whole lives.
I love it. You really get the reason why I do what I do. I believe that every single person who crosses my path is a door into a different way of thinking, is a door into another world. And until we start sharing these stories, we can't really change the world. You know, this interview today could be the light at the end of the tunnel for another young woman out there who's feeling lost, who's feeling a sense of isolation and not belonging. And a few things you've said just drop and they get it. That's the power of storytelling. And it's so exciting when I meet women who get it, you know. It's so rare and so unusual. So now if we can imagine that time is an illusion, that your past, your present, your future all exist in one timeline. And I'm now going to teleport you into the future to the 100-year-old you. And you are sitting in your rocking chair, surrounded by your children, your grandchildren, your great grandchildren, your dogs, your cats, whoever it is who ends up with you at the age of 100. And you could talk to this wise woman who's led you that far. What would you say to her based on how you're living your life now?
Man, I would say thank you. Thank you for all of the difficult parts that have helped me to grow and become who I am at this point in time. And I'm sure there'll be a lot more of those moments in the future. I don't think I'd ask any questions about what those are because I think I'll learn so much from being a surprise. But what I hope I don't need to tell her is that she better still be playing and having fun because I think that that is a really, really important part of life. And so much growth happens through just following our bliss. And I feel pretty confident that she'll be doing that.
Well, it sounds like it's an exciting life so far. You are definitely on the path to being her. And the reason why I love to ask that question is because women don't realize that we are born with all the answers. She's already within us and she's already guiding us. But we just have to tune into the essence of who we want to be for her to come stronger and to take us each step of the way. So, is there anything I should have asked you and I didn't? What are your parting thoughts?
Well, I just want to follow up on what you just said. I think that's so beautiful. And I don't know that I've thought about it that way before, but a lot of times I'll go back and talk to my inner child, but I don't think I ever thought about talking to my future self. And that's just such a cool idea that I'm going to play with and incorporate into my practice. Um, I guess the one thing that if I have one thing left to share, I don't know if there's a question I want you to, let's say you ask me that. What's one thing that I want to share with whoever's watching this? It would be, it doesn't have to get bad for you to want it to get better. A lot of the coaches and people I see out there talking, they came from a place of such despair or such misery, and they needed that to catalyze their journey. And at the beginning of my spiritual journey, I kept looking out for this dark night of the soul that I heard about and thinking, oh no, like, is this it? Am I going to be in a period of despair now for the next few months? Because that has to happen. And that never happened to me, and it doesn't have to. It as I mentioned earlier, I felt good. I was happy and enjoying life when I decided to embark on this journey of self discovery and get even deeper and make things better. And I'd love to encourage everyone to always be doing that. I used to tell myself a story of, oh, well, I don't need to go to therapy. I mean, I'm pretty much fine. I'm better, I'm way better than most people. And that was true, but I benefited so much from going and from doing that work anyways. So if there's something you've been thinking about doing to take you to the next level, maybe this is your sign, or maybe you don't even need a sign. Just go for it and just do it. You deserve it.
Fantastic. Bara, thank you so much for coming online today and sprinkling your nuggets of wisdom with our community. These are the magical conversations I love to have every single day when I meet women who are awake, who are aware, and who are helping others to be awake and aware as well. So keep doing the work. We are all doing the work to enlighten and enrich each other's lives. Thank you so much for this interview. And
Thank you.
thank you to everybody who's tuned in. The Her Story movement is attracting some phenomenal women. I do believe we are going to change the world one woman at a time, one story at a time. If you're a woman with a story to share, please reach out to me. Go onto the herstorycircle.com website and be a part of this amazing movement. Thank you again, Bara.
Thank you.